Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So interesting that we're talking about this today. Safety on the road. This is Safety First with Matt Freeman. He is the gentleman that helps make sure that all those big rigs, all those motor carriers, all those tankers are adhering to safety rules, but also safety starts with us driving around them. His company is dottrainingsolutions.com. I encountered a situation about an hour ago involving a tractor trailer. I'm going to throw it to him in a minute. First, we're going to bring him in here. Matt, welcome. How's it going?
Hey, doing well. Hey, thanks for having me back, Steve. This has been a lot of fun. Really good topic for today and some things that folks don't think about. So looking forward to hearing your story here.
So convenience store, go to get a cup of coffee, 7-Eleven. Big rig is, I'm pulling out. Big rig is pulling in. It was a Coca-Cola delivery truck. Beautiful, by the way. I mean, cherry red, shiny chrome. They keep them nice. And he was backing in and he was stopping the flow of traffic. And he was almost in, but not fully. And, I'm looking at my watch. I got to get going. And I'm thinking, he's here and I'm waiting here. And I want to go this way in front of him. And he's kind of sticking out in the road. And I was thinking, should I go or should I wait in case he has to maneuver again? And then he's going to be out in the road. It seemed like it was safe to proceed, but I did stop and think for a second, maybe I should wait. What's the protocol when, and I know it's not easy for these drivers to maneuver such a huge vehicle, but what do you do in those situations?
I always say, just be cautious. Be aware of the surroundings for that driver. They're in a big rig, regardless if it's the big Coca-Cola trucks, it's transporting all that, or, irregardless, they could have room. And as annoying as it can be sometimes, especially when you got to be someplace or they're backing up traffic and you just don't want to sit there, just be cautious.
Yeah.
Because I have seen, in my past where, and we see it all the time, people rush around them real quick and they get lucky, because maybe oncoming traffic or whatever. And then the other thing is, but I've also seen incidents where, someone goes around the truck because they don't want to wait on him, and that truck pulls forward, not seeing him, because they let off the clutch or whatever, and it jams forward.
Sure.
And they hit that car, not meaning to, but if the car would have just waited, a little bit, so I always highly recommend both sides. Drivers for trucks, be aware of your surroundings with smaller vehicles, and a big part on the safety side of the general public. Watch these big trucks. They got to have a lot of room, and one of the things you talk about, I've seen so many times, pulling up at a stoplight, and you see a rig's stopped. You see an officer there, but you'd also seen where he tried to cut a corner, and you got a car right there, and he just crushes it. He doesn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I've set at stoplights before and seen that happen. They just not paying attention, or that vehicle's in a blind spot and that driver really can't see him while he's turning, making a left or right turn, whatever it is, and crunches the front of that car. You can't. It is aggravating, but you just got to be cautious of the bigger trucks.
You just brought something out in my mind here too. I didn't even consider. I'm looking at the rig. There's a car coming the other way potentially, where the rig is just sort of in the way, and you can have an oncoming traffic situation. It's almost as if when you see those vehicles maneuvering, you have to raise your safety radar up in your mind. It's just, let me double check here, double check. And in the big picture, how much time are you going to save? Like, just might wait another, 14 seconds. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
We're so programmed,
right.
like, gotta go.
Because he may back in, and they're not supposed to be blocking traffic. Can they help it? Sometimes no, but he's going to pull in as far as he can. That way traffic can get around him. That's kind of a natural thing, and they can't be holding up traffic. That's that's going to cause a lot more issues. But one of the big things that is out there, kind of like what we were just talking about, they call it the no zone.
Hmm.
Do you know what the no zone is?
No.
That is
I
the
have
blind spots.
no pun intended. No.
Right. So that the no zone is, you know, the area where they cannot. That's a blind spot. And a good rule of thumb is if you're trying to pass a rig and you can't see their face in the mirror, that means they can't see you either.
Hmm.
So you see a lot of these times these rigs are, swerving into you. Sometimes it's because they don't see you. They really don't know you're there. They're not just, being that kind of driver. They just don't see you. So it's always good when you're passing a vehicle. Don't stay right up along that rig. Get past it, because if he doesn't see you, he could potentially come over in your lane and not even realize you're there.
Wow.
So they call that the no zone area. It's a blind spot. You know, even in our everyday cars, we have blind spots, and luckily today we have those little things that beep on the side of the vehicle to let you know there's someone by you. But not every car's got that,
Sure.
and definitely the rigs don't have that saying, "Hey, there's somebody right here." Um,
Interesting
so
point you
that's
bring up. What are some of those safety things that are in the newer rigs that you're aware of? Like we might just take it for granted. Oh, they must have, something beep, 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 vehicles next to them. Are there any, even in the last 5, 10 years, any major safety improvements for them?
one of the biggest things that I've seen, and there are so many different kinds, is the cameras.
Hmm.
They have onboard, and inboard, outboard cameras. They all had different functions. But most of them were set up for quick response. Like if an incident happens, the camera triggers, braking, the camera triggers. There's different things that set those. So that's the only thing I'm aware of. I don't keep up with all the different manufacturing, and there's so many different
Sure.
styles of trucks and rigs and different things out there. But that is one of them, and that's the reason they did the cameras is safety features for the driver, and also the oncoming traffic and public when incidents do occur.
Is
Uh,
that how it works where there's a trigger for the cameras? Well, we've talked about cameras briefly
mhm,
before, and
mhm.
some drivers find them invasive, that they're being watched all the time, but then on the other side, it's a great thing because they could save their butt, if you will, if there's an accident, and it's not their fault. Uh, but you have, I would assume, the camera in the rig that's always on. And then it sounds like there's other cameras that get triggered based on braking and things like that. Do I have that right?
Yeah, there's different types of sudden movement. There's certain things that trigger them, and depending on the devices you have, uh, they can be set differently. You know,
Okay.
they're not required, by regulation, but
Hmm,
a lot of companies are going to them because it comes down to, as far as a good safety feature, when it does go to court, we've talked about this before. Sometimes that can save you a lot by saying, "Hey, this was a no fault," for the driver.
gotcha.
This car really did pull out in front of them, or whatever it may be, and even being on the safer side of things like we're talking about. You get a car in the blind spot, and he truly can't see him, but that camera picks him up. Again, that's something the camera sees that you don't potentially. Um, I don't like to talk too much about all the detail of them because I don't have all the information on each camera, but
Sure.
that's what they're used for. And um, some drivers don't like them, but I think that when it's come to court or any incidents, that they become too like them, especially when it's in their favor. And it's about being safe, and you can't. It's not like a driver can go down the road and yell out the window, "Hey, I can't see you." There's no
Right.
communication there. They just don't know. And another thing that with uh, being safe out there is these. This is a time of year of weather conditions. You
Hmm,
know, we don't know when we're going to get the storms, the fogginess. It's just that time of year where uh, the winds and everything else. So I always, drivers, not only the big trucks and trailers, but the motor, just the everyday public needs to be careful and be cautious. Don't If it, you see these trucks swerving back and forth. It's not always because of the driver. There's conditions it's causing this. Be cautious, be aware of that surrounding. If you're going to pass that truck, you know, be cautious. Do it. Don't mess around. And
Mm.
if they're slowing down, there's a reason they're slowing down. So you just can't be more cautious when it comes to working around these big trucks.
When I was a kid, my mom always used to say when we're driving down, she was driving, and
Mhm.
I'd see a truck, Mom, there's a truck or whatever. And she goes, you know
Uh,
where that truck can go? And she'd say, anywhere it wants.
Good point.
Right? How about
Uh,
we look at different scenarios
yeah.
involving rigs and large trucks, tankers, and such, and what we should do? Like, for example, you're driving right hand side of the road, or potentially, if there's a big challenge, left hand side of the road, there's a big rig pulled over to the side. Maybe it's broken down, repairs being made. Uh, what should you do? Obviously avoid it, but what if you can't? What if there's a lot of traffic? Can we look at different scenarios like that and best practice for driving?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point here. So when you do see these guys on the side of the road do the maintenance, whatever it is, most of the time their hood's up, sometimes they're setting their flashers on. They're required to set out the triangles. You'll see three triangles
Hmm.
staged so many feet apart so they can show the approach. Be cautious when you see these. If you can get over, I encourage, you know, move over to the far lane
Okay.
because you don't know if that driver's walking around the truck or what he's doing. And even with say there's an officer as a driver pulled over, that's still a big rig and an officer on the side of the road. And most states have adopted the move over law.
Mm.
And so if you can't move over, it's cautioned for rules to drive slower. If you are in traffic, you just can't get over, but you don't want to go barreling down, because who knows what happens, especially in bad road conditions. I have experienced, in places I've lived, going through like mountain passes and stuff. These trucks have to pull over, make sure they got chains on the vehicles, things like that, and they're out there trying to put chains on, and you got slush throwing up in the air. You're out there trying to do it, and you're getting sloshed too. You just got to be cautious. I mean, I can experience that. It's not a fun experience when you're getting sloshed by rigs
Mm.
going by you, and you're trying to put chains on your, because you're trying to get up a mountain pass. But those are other circumstances. And when those trucks are pulled over, irregardless if it's a mountain pass, if it's broken down on the side of the road, watch for those triangles. You know, that's where you want to be cautious. You want to move over. That's no different being on the side, driving beside one. They may not see you. So you can't be, let's say, more cautious enough, and think about the safety of, uh, going around that vehicle. Still driving recklessly. I've seen trucks and cars, weaving in and out of stuff. Get out of their way. They're a big vehicle.
I'm glad you said that because I was just getting a picture of that. Let's say you're waiting at an intersection and there's a rig coming and it's making a turn. And I think we've all experienced this at least once in our life where you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, it's coming right for me. Now, the
Mhm.
speed has been reduced and he's making a maneuver. He's not going to hit you, but you'll,
Hopefully, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
and you're feeling like this thing's getting close. If you have room in back of you, should you put it in reverse and just back up or move a little bit safely, only safely out of the way to give way? Or is it, and I'm going to say it, or is it kind of insulting to the driver that you're moving out of the way where, he's got it? Like, what would you do?
I would get out of the way.
Okay.
I've had to get out of the way. And I've seen trucks. That's where I kind of started off with the conversation about an intersection. I've seen trucks, you know, um, drivers are taught to drive a truck. It's a big truck. They're taught, they're going to have to take sharp corners. They're going to have to do this, but they got to be able to have the room to do it. Um, I have cringed Many times when I've seen, and you're trying to get out of the way and you just can't, you got 3 cars backing you up. And if those cars don't move, well, there's a potential chance if he takes that turn too sharp, or if that's his only choice, um, you, you know, uh, there's a chance that he's going to get you. Not meaning to, but just not depending on the surroundings, right? I don't mean to stand up for the driver. Sometimes they can't help it, and sometimes they just don't pay attention. I'm talking about the rig.
Right.
I have seen them knock down poles and keep on driving. Had an instance where we stopped somebody one time. We witnessed him running over a light pole and said he never saw it after we caught up with him.
Wow.
Well, I didn't see that. You didn't feel that, your trailer bouncing up and down after you ran off the curb. So there's, again, can they help it? Probably. And there's that chance, well, it was a true accident.
Right.
So,
but
when,
like you said, judgment.
Yeah.
Sometimes he misjudge. It happens. And fortunately, when that rig is making the turn from an intersection, he's reduced his speed. He's not, full on at 55, 65 miles an hour, but he connects with a vehicle. There's going to be damage, and hopefully no injury. But yeah, good to know, because I always feel like yes, get out of the way, but if he's coming, you don't even have a second to react to it. Hail Mary.
Yeah, really. No, that's true. I mean, I've seen people at the last second. I've even been in that experience. Hit the gas. He's cutting too short. And you just hope you get out of the way in time.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate, in my past where I've had a truck do that in my own personal vehicle, and I was able to get out of the way this time. Like, man, if I wouldn't have moved, this much, he would have cleared my, the front end.
Right.
So, it's caution. And, we talk so much about the rigs and the trucks. It's just, I thought it'd be a good message to let folks know.
Sure.
Be careful out there. Just be cautious. Don't hang around in their blind spots, that no zone. And, when you do see a rig that sometimes depending on the conditions, you see that trailer whipping back and forth, give him some space. Let him straighten that out. That could be a lot of reasons causing that trailer to whip. Weight has shifted, many things. So they got to be cautious. And these drivers, they're doing everything they can. Again, they're transporting an 80,000-pound vehicle there. So that's a lot of weight to try to get in control of. I mean, I've been on the road when I've seen lumber shooting out the back of trucks before, and being into traffic whenever because it got whipping around.
Wow.
And talk about scary. That was a scary moment. I was with my family driving. We were going on a trip, and I was a teenager, and I'll never forget that. Going, am I seeing this? I'm thinking of the what was the show that they tried to avoid death? You see stuff happening all the time.
There was a bunch of them. My favorite one was I Survived. Where
Yes.
something happened and you survived. I shared with you a few weeks ago. We were talking about transporting tankers, and there was a truck in front of me, and had it wasn't a tanker truck, but it was a truck transporting a lot of propane cylinders. The big ones. I don't know, 6 foot tall, whatever it was. And one of them came bouncing off the back and toward me. And I was like, and I'm just like, nothing I could do. Fortunately, nothing happened, but without a doubt, it had propane in it, because the driver tried to pick it up or maneuver it to the side of the road. And if it was empty, it would be a lot easier to do it. Got lucky. I guess it didn't hit,
the stem.
The stem. Thank you. I was thinking valve. But yeah, this stuff, I mean, it can happen. And that's even more of a reason to remind us all to be aware. Accidents are going to happen, even if in that situation it was locked down, even with the plywood locked down. Things happen, things break, if you're alert, maybe you can steer around it. Maybe you can have an evasive action. But if you're just, driving on autopilot, I mean, how many times people say, oh, I don't know how I got here. I was driving and I just turned around. I'm already here,
Yeah.
exit 37 already. Wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're,
You just zoned out,
yeah.
that muscle memory kicks in. It's like, I don't remember any of this.
You know what? That's actually what's happening there. And I've talked to many, done podcasts with hypnotherapists. You
Mhm.
are in a state of hypnosis when it happens, when you do that. How did I get here? Your subconscious is now taking over. You're awake, but your subconscious is kind of piloting you the entire time. And you always use that example because a lot of people think that, hypnotherapy, people are controlling your mind. No, they're giving you the key to your mind. And that's what being hypnotized feels like. Just that.
Right.
You're awake, but you're not. If something were to happen, your conscious would instantly kick in. We would assume.
Hmm.
But another reason to always be aware. Always.
Yeah. And when you see crazy stuff out there, I always go back to the side of enforcement and safety, right? So if you see a truck out there and you're out of that, even if you are in a hypnosis stage or you're well aware of what's going on, and you do see a truck going out of control, and it's like nonstop out of control as far as shifting, weaving.
Oof.
There's always the, you call it the local highway patrol. There's numbers, depending where you are, let them know, hey, don't know what's going on here. I'm behind a truck, and just let them know, hey, that get someone out there. Maybe there is a real issue,
Right. Medical.
and yeah, it could be anything. And again, you're being cautious. Be aware that's surrounded. That's a big rig, and you don't want to see him hurt somebody unintentionally. And
To your point, I want to ask you a question right at this moment. When you're driving and you see a rig not navigating in the most safest way, shall we say, and there's signs on it that say, "How's my driving? Call." Is it taken seriously when you see those numbers? Does it go to somebody of some type of authority to report? I've always wondered about that.
where that's going to, my experience, where that usually goes, it goes back to the main office. There's probably a line, like, some type of, let's say, like a hotline instantly, for that company, or might go back to the dispatcher. you know um it's just basically saying, hey, one reason they do that is to kind of keep the driver,
Mm,
hey, anybody can call me at any time. They got the number back here. it's
yeah,
it's keep it's keeping you right.
yeah.
um
I
but
know that many drivers may disagree, but I feel that it's not a bad thing. Again, for a medical emergency, could you imagine if the driver's having an issue and is not aware of what's going on? And like you said, weaving down the road and somebody makes a call. Yeah, you can 911. But maybe it's not to the point where you want to make a police call, but you just want to be, or the driver's just a jerk. Let's just be honest. Sometimes that can happen too.
yeah, no, where I get concerned about, just on a personal level, is early hours in the morning and late
Mm,
at night. When I'm
mm,
seeing them swerving, I'm
mm,
like, okay, is it distracted driving, or is
sure.
he actually, getting tired? And hey, have I called in before? More than once in my time.
Me too.
Um, just because I'm concerned. Not that I want to get this guy in trouble, but you don't want to. The last thing you want to do is go up there and start flashing your lights at him and trying to wave him down. Because if he is falling asleep and you spook him,
Point.
right?
Wow.
You got to be careful. Again, be cautious of what you're seeing.
Mm.
Um, have I been pushed off the side of the road because of big trucks? Sure have. They didn't see me. You know, um,
You really
but
bring up the things that we don't think of. And even that spooking the driver, because let's say he fell asleep or whatever it is, all it takes is one move, one just, and it's all over. Matt, share your website. I know you work with many companies around the country to ensure safety and compliance. And this is just a piece of it. This is more for the regular drivers like us,
right.
how to react around the others, the drivers of these rigs. But how do we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website's dottrainingsolutions.com. You can reach me at my direct email is Matt, M-A-T-T, at dottrainingsolutions.com. And I'll even give my direct number here. It's 573-416-8203. That's a direct line to me. So I enjoy working with everybody when they call and do what I can to see what we can help you with safety and compliance.
Sure. And that's for motor carrier companies. Don't call that number if you see a rig not operating
Exactly.
properly. That's not
I'm
the
here to
number.
help safety.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being here. Always gain a lot of knowledge and insight every time you're with us.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.